one another, so that there's a balance is maintained in the food chain. Like say if all the green plants were to extinct, all the other organisms, all other life on earth will be impacted because of this. The green plant is important. Or some people would say like, I don't like the grasshoppers, I don't like the ants, they damage the food, they bite, uh, they cause certain problems. But ants have a very important role to play in the food chain. They are the decomposers now. They would be decomposing the dead and rotting remains of several animals. Like you would have seen, like if there's a lizard in your home, if there's a dead lizard in your home, so the first animal that would be eating it would be the ants. So they help to keep the environment clean. So every animal is important, and their population needs to be maintained in a certain number so that the balance is maintained in nature. Getting it? Yes, Aisha, how are you?
Fine, sir.
Good.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So it allows continuity of a species generation after generation. Furthermore, it also plays an important role in evolution by transmitting favorable variation from one generation to another. Okay, na? Like as we know that over the course of thousands or probably lakhs of years, organisms evolve. Right now, they evolve. Either their body would be evolving, either they will show some behavioral adaptations. Getting it? They will be showing some behavioral adaptations. Like for example, how the bodies would be adapting. Like consider the kind of polar bear that would be alive probably 1 lakhs of years ago. Try to imagine what kind of polar would what how the polar bear would have looked like about 1 lakh years ago. It might have a different body structure, might have looked different. The amount of hair on its body or the amount of fat in its body would have been different, and it might not have been favorable for it to survive in the cold conditions, right? But what happened? Generations after generation, a thick layer of fat started to develop under their body. The density of hair on the body might have increased. So these were the evolutions now. Evolution taking place in the body, generation after generation. One generation to next generation. The next generation comes because of reproduction now. If the animals were not to participate in reproduction, will the next generation of that animal will come? No. Also, whatever favorable traits one species, one generation of an animal would have developed, it will pass on those favorable traits or favorable variations to next generation. Like one generation of what happened, let us say that due to some variation in their body, due to some sudden change in their body, what might have happened, a certain number of polar bears, their body started to produce thicker fur, thicker hair, right? And as those polar bears would have mated with each other, the male and female polar bears, as they would have mated with each other, so their baby, the baby born, that will also be having thicker fur, and that's a favorable variation now. It will be favoring them, it will be helping them in surviving in the cold condition. So that is another role of reproduction. It plays an important role in evolution by transmitting the favorable variation from one generation to another generation. Okay, now the example that I have given, just it's a reference. Okay, now the actual course of evolution of polar bear might have been slightly different from what I have to. Okay, so try to understand the context of the example. That is one thing. So then it's a biological process basically by which an organism produces offspring of the same kind. Of the same kind. By same kind, it does not mean that it will be identical to their parent. Okay, now getting it now. Only in some cases it will be identical. Okay. So like the cat gives birth to cat, both of them are of the same kind. But in certain cases, we have examples of organisms like planaria or like you have hydra. So they will be giving birth to organisms. They will be giving birth to identical organisms. Okay, now. So what will happen? Like for example, this planaria simply, if its body gets splitted into 3 or 4 halves, each half grows into a new planaria, as you can observe here. And in the case of budding, what happens? There's a small outgrowth. This small outgrowth goes on to grow, and later on, it will detach from its parent body, and a new hydra will grow. Getting it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So basically, we see that there are different modes of reproduction. One has been categorized, one is the asexual, another one is the sexual mode of reproduction. We learned that humans, different kind of mammals, cockroaches, different kind of insects, they would be going through sexual reproduction where two parents would be involved, while in the case of asexual reproduction, only one parent would be required. Like, for example, amoeba, okay, which we'll be learning in a moment. So there are different ways via asexual reproduction will occur. Those are fission, fragmentation, budding, regeneration, or spore formation. The organisms that would be participating in asexual reproduction would be bacteria or amoeba. Bacteria or amoeba. You guys tell me, how often do you hear that bacteria have gender? Male bacteria, female bacteria. How often do you get to hear such a thing?
Not so.
Not so often, no? Right? Because just they don't have any gender usually, and just one parent is splitting into two halves, or either one part of their body gets broken and a new organism grows out of that. Like over here, an organism splits into different parts, basically into different fragments, so that is called as fragmentation. A small bird appears out of the body. Later on, that bird grows further, and finally, there comes a time when it detaches itself from the parent body. So that is called as budding. Reproduction by formation of a bird. Okay. No? Like that, there are other ways of reproduction or sexual reproduction also, which I will be touching in the later part of the class. Okay. Then in the previous class, we did learn about the difference between these two, like how these two are different from each other. So there we basically learned that talking about the asexual mode of reproduction, in this only one parent is required, right? And in this non-sex cells are involved. Like for example, all the cells in the body that will not be participating in reproduction. Like take the example of our body, for example, the skin cells, bone cells, muscle cells, the hair cells, the cells of the brain, the cells of the lungs, kidney, etc. That will not be participating in the process of reproduction. What kind of cells participate? They are the germ cells, or also called as gamete cells. So Naim, you'd be thinking of like, what is this gamete cells now? See,
So
basically,
male and the female gametes.
yeah, male and the female gamete. Very good. So normally, when an adult would be when a children when children should be reaching the age of adolescence. Right now, when they reach a certain age where their body starts to show several changes, like their voice changes, the height increases, the muscle mass in the body increases, growth of hair in the armpits, in the pubic region, change of voice. So it's a transition period, like as a children would be going through the transition phase that usually lasts from the age of 12 to 18 or 19. So by the time they have reached the age of 18 or 19 years now, so their reproductive organ starts to produce sex cells, namely called as ovum, that will be produced in the female, while sperm that would be produced in the male. Ovum would be produced by the ovaries, while sperm would be produced by the testes. So these sex cells that you see, namely the ovum and sperm, they are being called as gametes, right? Aisha, Ibrahim, and Naim, they are called as the gametes. So gametes should be participating in reproduction, as these two gametes should be fusing to form a single cell called a zygote, and this zygote would later on go on to become embryo, and then later on will develop into a complete human baby. If you were to take the example of the human here, getting it? So that's the process of sexual reproduction. It's a lengthy process, it's a complicated process, and the complete duration of development of the human baby is about 9 months. Okay. So here we see that our body have about 3 trillions, 32 trillion cells are there in the body. In an average, in a fully grown adult, about 32 or 33 trillion cells are there in the average body of an adult. So there are different kind of cells. There are different numbers of cells in our body, but out of all the cells of the bones or the muscles, they are not participating in reproduction. But the cells that are produced by the female reproductive organ, that is ovum, or produced by the male reproductive organ, that is testis, they are the sperm and the egg that is participating. Are the muscle cells participating in this? You guys tell me.
No, sir.
No, neither is the hair or the bone cells. So thereby your body has two kind of cells. One that participates, our body has two kind of cells. One that participates in reproduction, they are called as gametes. And the one that does not participate in the reproduction, they are called as somatic cells. Okay, now somatic cells would be your muscle cells, for example, or bone cells. That doesn't have anything to do directly with reproduction. Okay, but in the case of this amoeba, for example, we have example of an amoeba. Okay, who will tell me then in which group this amoeba has been put? Bacteria, protozoa, fungi, what is it? I asked the same question in the previous class also to you guys, Ibrahim and Aisha.
Bacteria.
No. Ibrahim, what about you? Hmm? Shows that you guys haven't been paying attention in the class. This is a
Microorganism.
Yeah, obviously it's a microorganism. There are different groups of microorganisms. You have bacteria, you have protozoa, you have fungi, then you have viruses, you have algae. This is a protozoa. Okay, this is a protozoa, not a bacteria. Don't confuse it with bacteria. Okay. So what I was saying about this amoeba now, like this amoeba will simply split into two halves. And the whole body is splitting into two halves. Is there any role of any sex cells in this? No. Basically, the body is splitting into two halves now. Getting it? So thereby, in them, somatic cells would be participating in reproduction. Talking about asexual reproduction, we know that it's a uniparental reproduction in which just one parent is required. Here, somatic cells would be participating in this type of reproduction. Sex cells are not produced. No gametes are produced in the case of the amoeba. I have taken just one example. Like this, there are several examples of like fungi, different kind of viruses, different kind of bacteria. We have examples of planaria. We have examples of hydra. They would also be following asexual reproduction, and they also do not produce the sex cells. Keep that in mind. So every organism, usually almost all of the organism that will be doing asexual mode of reproduction, their body does not produces the gamete cells. Usually, I am saying. Okay, although there are exceptions, some of exceptions are also there. So the differences were as follows. Somatic cells are involved, but here gamete cells are involved. Furthermore, in the case, like it involves the production of asexual spores. Like for example, in the case of fungi, so fungi, they would be reproducing by the help of the spores produced. Okay, no? While in the case of sexual reproduction, fusion of gametes will be taking place. Namely, the male and female gametes would be fusing. In the case of asexual reproduction, as in the case of this amoeba, these daughter cells are identical to their parents. Okay, now they are identical. You know what a twin brother or twin sisters are? Twin children's. Both of them look similar to each other now, right? So these will also be looking exactly similar to their parents. They will be exact copies of their parents. Okay, no? Not just in the case of this amoeba. You take any other organism. Like for example, take this planaria. All the planarias are equal to their parent. Like this planaria, can't we call this as the parent planaria, which is split into three halves? which is split into three parts, and each of the part later on became a new plan area, and all of them are identical to each other. Getting this now?
Sir,
Yes.
won't the parents die?
Basically, parents, technically we can say yes, the parents have died, but they have basically, we can say that it have kind of disappeared. More appropriate to say like it has kind of basically vanished. We would say basically it has vanished, and kind of is seen as a rebirth of the parent, as all of its part basically not develop into a new plan area. Okay, now
Okay, sir.
technically yes, it is dead, but at the same time we observe that, like in the case of this amoeba also, the parent has vanished into two daughter cells. Getting it, no? Like the flow of life hasn't stopped. Okay, and the flow of life hasn't stopped.
Okay,
This
sir.
parent amoeba continues to exist in the form of its daughter cells. It continues to stay alive in the form of its daughter cell. In the same manner, I think we can say about same thing about the planaria also. It continues to stay alive in the form of its daughter cells. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. While in the case of sexual reproduction, we see that offsprings are genetically dissimilar to the parent. Like we know that inside our cells there are DNA, right? Inside our cells we have a nucleus have chromosomes. Inside the chromosomes we have DNA. Have a look at what I'm trying to say. This is our cell. Let us say that we have taken cell of the muscles. Inside that cell you have a dense dark colored structure called as nucleus, right? Inside the nucleus we have so many thread like structures that are called as chromosomes. Getting it, guys? These are the thread like structures. And if I were to take out one chromosome out of here, so this chromosome will contain DNA in this, and DNA will further contain gene in this. Okay, now sometime I'll be explaining you guys in detail about all this. Okay, now as of now, just try to understand when we talk about genetically, now this term genetically, now, so we are actually referring to the gene, okay, which will be found in the nucleus of the cell. Okay, so the kind of genes that are found in the cells of your body, it is different from the kind of genes that is found in your parents' body. That's why we look this our look is dissimilar as compared to our parents. We might be having different blood groups. huh? Our voice would be different. Our behavior might be in certain ways different. Our physical look is different right now. So thereby, in the case of sexual reproduction, the offsprings are genetically dissimilar to their parent. Okay, now they are not exact copies of their parents. They are not exact copies of their parents. Okay, now although they might be looking similar, like some of the features would be similar. Like a child can have the same kind of hair as his father. If his father has a curly hair, the child might also have the curly hair, right? You would have observed like our ear now, some of like in some children the ears are attached to the cheek cells. In some of them it is loose, hanging loose. Getting it what I'm trying to say, Aisha, Ibrahim, Naeem?
Yes, sir.
Like some of them would be like this and some of them would be attached like this. Okay, no? So they might borrow this characteristic now from their parent. Okay, but they are not borrowing all the characteristics from their parents. Only some of the characteristics they can be borrowing from their parent. Hope you guys are getting this. Okay, so you will observe that if you were to look at the physical features of children, some of physical features will match with the mother. Some of the physical features, the outlook of the baby will look similar to the father. Okay, no, that you might would have noticed. Okay. Also, in the case of asexual reproduction, the rate of reproduction will be faster. Okay, no, it's a fast process. But in the case of sexual reproduction, the rate of reproduction is slower. It is evident from this fact that the growth of the human baby takes about 9 months. Right now, takes about 9 months. That is one thing. Then in the previous class, we had learned about sexual reproduction in humans. So the sexual reproduction in the humans, it is divided into 3 stages. It is divided into 3 stages. Can you guys name it? Particularly you guys, Ibrahim and Aisha.
Fusion.
No, start from the first phase now. First stage. Before even the fusion of the gamete cells takes place, they have to be formed in the body, no? So the first stage is the pre-fertilization event. Okay. Ibrahim, were you not present in the previous class?
Yes, sir, I was.
You were, no? So do you not revise the notes, or like do you not make notes of the class? Please be
Sir,
please.
there was some internet issue for me.
Okay, okay. What about you, Aisha? You tell me the later 2 stages of reproduction. Okay, see, Naim, Ibrahim, and Aisha. Reproduction in humans, it is completed into 3 different stages. So, for example, like a individual to participate in reproduction, first of all, the gamete cells in his or her body has to be produced. Like a newborn male child, its body does not start to produce sperm at that time. It is only when they reach the age of 12 or 13 years, 11, 12 or 13 years, their reproductive organs will start to produce sperm, right? In the case of females, although the eggs or the ovum, that is the gamete cells, would be present since the time of birth, but they are not mature. They are not fully grown. So it is only when they reach the age of 13, 14, or 15 years or 16 years of age that the production and release of the mature eggs will start to take place. So these are all the event that is happening before the reproduction, before fertilization, before the individuals would be mating. You guys getting, Naim, particularly you getting it? What I'm
Yes,
saying?
sir.
So pre-fertilization event is that the events that would be occurring before fertilization, okay, now before fusion of the male and female gamete cells. So let me separate it like this. The pre-fertilization event, in this production of gametes take place, namely the sperm and ovum. Sometimes ovum is also called as egg. This is also called as egg. Okay. Then when the individuals would be mating, okay, na, so thereby the male and the female sex cells, namely the sperm and egg or the ovum, they would be fusing, they would be mixing, and it will lead to a growth of a single cell called as zygote. So that is the fertilization event. That is the fertilization. Once fertilization has occurred, so then the growth of the zygote will take place. So there what happens? So this zygote was a single cell structure. No, this was a single celled structure. But look at this baby. Will this be, does this baby look like it has got only one cell in the body? There are probably trillions of cells in this baby now, right? So then, in order for the growth of this baby, the number of cells must multiply, right? Right, Naim, Ibrahim, and Aisha. So thereby,
Yes, sir.
after fertilization, the number of cells will start to multiply. Cells will start to multiply, then tissues will be formed, organs will be formed, and this baby will be born. So these are the events that occur after fertilization. So they are called as post-fertilization event. Post-fertilization event. Hope that is clear. Okay. After this, we have to learn about the male and the female reproductive organs. Okay. So talking about the male reproductive organ, have a look at this diagram. So male reproductive organ consists of the following male reproductive system in the humans consists of the following organs. Like there's a testis, scrotum is there. Then you have to learn about urethra, the penis. Okay, now then the urinary bladder, not the urinary bladder, sorry. The sperm duct, also called as vas deferens, the seminal vesicle, and prostate gland. So let us learn about them one after another. First of all, talking about the first structure, that is the penis. So penis is a muscular cylindrical structure. This is a muscular cylindrical structure that would be carrying the urine, it has a small opening on its top via which the semen and the urine would be passing. Okay, na? Via which semen and urine would be passing. Getting it, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. After this, right behind the penis, there's a sac-like structure that is called as scrotum. The one over where I am pointing. That is the scrotum. Now, this scrotum would be loosely hanging out of the body. Why? It is designed in such a manner. Why what is the advantage of this? See, basically the thing is now, the primary function of the testicles that are stored, that are found under the scrotum, now, their function is to produce sperms, right? Their function is to perform to produce sperms now. Getting it? But the production of sperms would be usually taking place at a temperature lower than the normal body temperature. Okay. Getting it? By the way, you guys tell me about this, huh? What is the normal body temperature?
37 degrees Celsius.
37 degrees Celsius, right now. So, but the production of sperms would require a temperature about 35 or 36 degrees Celsius. Okay, now. So the temperature, that much temperature will be maintained in the scrotum, so that production of sperms can take place. So the sperms are produced in the testis. Okay, and sperms are the male gametes, basically, as you would be aware of this. So the primary function of the scrotum, this sac-like structure, would be to hold the testicles. And the testicles, their primary function, testicles also called as testes, okay, na? Their primary function would be the production of sperms. Got this so far?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. And in this, we have several other structures also, like we have this urethra. What is the function of the sperm duct or the vas deferens? So try to understand from here. Just look at where I'm pointing. Otherwise, you'd be lost. Okay. So this is testis. Testis produces sperm, right? So this sperm will pass via this yellow tube that you see now. This yellow color tube, although it's not yellow in reality. So this will pass via this yellow tube, and then it will ultimately go into this urethra. See the red tube-like structure that you see now? That is called as urethra. Okay, getting it? So this yellow tube-like structure where I'm pointing, this is called as the sperm duct or vas deferens. What do we call this as? We call this as vas deferens or either sperm duct. Its function would be to carry sperm from the testis to the urethra. All if you're getting this now?
Urinary bladder.
Urinary bladder. Urinary bladder is basically a pouch-like structure that holds the urine for a temporary period of time. Right now, we're learning about the male reproductive system. Urinary bladder is not part of the male reproductive system. Okay, now?
Okay.
That is one thing. So what we have learned so far, that have a look at another diagram over here. Okay, now of the same male reproductive organ. So this vast difference would be carrying the sperm. It would be carrying the sperm from the testicles now all the way up to here. Okay, now. So the vast difference brings the sperm from the testicles all the way to the seminal vesicles, and it will further go into this urethra, the where I'm pointing. So we have to, after vas difference or sperm duct, basically, we have to learn about some other structures in this also. Like you can see over here, try to understand the structure of this. Like this vas difference is not directly connected to the urethra. Try to understand the diagram. In between that, there are two other structures called as seminal vesicle and prostate gland, by the way, prostate gland. You understanding now what I have said moments ago, all of you?
Yes, sir.
So the seminal vesicle and the prostate gland, they will also be releasing their secretions. They will also release something. Getting it? They will also release something. And talking about the seminal vesicles. So seminal vesicles would be seminal vesicles, the one that has been highlighted in the green color. This is a pouch-like structure, and they are located right above the prostate gland, as you can see, right? Found in a pair of seminal vesicle is found. So they are located above the prostate gland. And as you can see, they are connected to the vas deferens, isn't it? They are connected to the vas deferens. Notice where I'm pointing. So the seminal vesicles, they will also be secreting a liquid. They will also be secreting a fluid that will provide nourishment to the sperms. You know that this sperm that is coming from the testicles, it requires nourishment. It requires energy so that it can move. Okay, now? It requires energy so that it can move. So the seminal vesicles that you will see over here, it will secrete some fluid that will be providing nourishment. So far, is it clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Good. Right after
Can
that,
you
you
repeat?
have, yeah, what I said now, this seminal vesicle now, it will secrete a fluid. That fluid will be providing nourishment to the sperms. As the sperm is coming into the vas deferens, so as the sperm goes into this seminal vesicle secretes some fluid, some liquids, and that will be providing it with nutrition, with nourishment. That is the thing. Hope it's clear. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right after that, you right below the seminal vesicles, you have the prostate gland. Okay, no? So it is a gland that is located under the urinary bladder. Hope you guys can see this another diagram over here. See over this is the urinary bladder now, right? And right behind the urinary bladder, this structure where I'm pointing is the prostate gland. Getting it, guys? And over in this diagram also, hope you can observe this. This is the urinary bladder, and right behind or right beneath the urinary bladder, this prostate gland is located, right? So this prostate gland now, it will also be secreting a special fluid. That is called as prostate fluid. What do we call that as? Prostate fluid. Okay. Now this prostate fluid now, it makes about 1/3 content of the semen. Huh? Semen, you guys understand this, the term semen I'm using over here?
No,
Semen
Yes,
is,
sir.
okay, let me just clarify it. Semen is basically the thick white or milkous liquid that would be coming out of the coming out via the penis. Okay, no? And semen will contain lots of things. Huh? Talking about composition of semen, it will contain different kind of fluids. Huh? Like it will be containing the fluid coming from the seminal vesicle. It will contain the fluid that is the prostate fluid. It will contain sperm. It will contain water. It will contain lots of nutritious substances. Let me just clarify this term semen first of all. Do not confuse it with this with sperm. Sperm is found inside within the semen. Okay, now so it is a fluid that is produced by the male reproductive male reproductive system that contains several components, that contains several substances that will be helping the sperm cells to survive and later on fertilize the egg cells. Getting it now? So that contains several substances that will that helps, I mean to say, that helps the sperms to survive, move, and fertilize the. So hope you guys are understanding.
Yes,
So
sir.
what this talking about its composition, it will contain water. Water will be found in this right now. It will contain mucus. It will contain mucus in it. Furthermore, it will contain fluid from seminal vesicle. What else will it contain? It will contain prostate fluid now. It will contain prostate fluid. Getting it? Furthermore, it will contain lots of nutrients in it also. Getting it, guys? It will contain lots of nutrients like potassium. I'm writing in short, okay, now magnesium or zinc or lactic acid will be found in this. Just to name few of them, I have noted this. By the way, glucose will also be found in this. Some amount of glucose will be found in this. So, several kind of proteins will be found in this. Just notice that there's a huge difference between semen and sperm, right? The sperm is just one of the component found in the semen, while semen basically it contains all the fluids, including the sperm. And the purpose of all these substances like water, mucus, or fluids coming from the seminal vesicle or prostate fluid, different kind of nutrients, all of them, their purpose is basically to help the sperm to survive, to move, and to help in fertilizing the egg. Hope that much is clear so far.
Yes, sir.
Now, getting back to what we were discussing, we were learning about the different kind of structures over here. So, talking about the prostate gland, I say that it is located right under the urinary bladder. It will be secreting a prostate fluid, and that fluid will make about 1/3 of the content of the semen. So, meaning that about 33% of the semen will basically be made up by 33% of the content, 33% of the content of semen will be made up by. You guys not getting it what I'm saying? Moments ago I say that the prostate gland secretes a fluid called as prostate fluid, right? And this prostate fluid makes up about 1/3 of the content of semen. Getting it? Okay. So for example, if there's, let us say that 10 ml of semen is there, 10 ml of semen. So out of this, 3.3 ml will be just the prostate fluid. Is that clear? This much of maths, I think all of you understand, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then talking about other structures like about urethra, as we have learned moments ago, it's a tube that would be carrying the sperm from the testicles to the urethra, basically, right? Okay, so let's sum it up. Okay, now So this one, and this one, Naim, you will be reading these paragraphs. Read this. Start from here, by the way. We are trying to sum up the different things which we have learned so far. Read aloud in the class. Go on mute actually, Naim. Okay, Asha, you do one thing, you read the given paragraphs.
The male reproductive system provides the sperm, male gametes for fertilization. The male reproductive organs include the following. Penis. It is a cylinder-shaped organ containing a small opening at its top. It secretes semen which contains the male gametes or sperms. Scrotum. It is a sac-like structure present behind the penis. The testicles or tests are present in these organs. It provides them the right temperature so that they can produce sperms. Tests. Most males have a pair of tests or testicles. The tests consist of coiled tube-like structure that produces sperm. The test also generate the
Testis. You are
test.
mispronouncing it. Testis.
Testes also generate the male sex hormone or the testosterone that causes puberty in males.
Good. So what we have, these are the things which we have learned so far. Another important thing which came up over here, we should be learning in a moment, that apart from producing the sperms, the testis also produces a chemical substance called as hormone. So the hormone produced by the testis is called as testosterone, and which is responsible for causing puberty in the males. So what happens, like when a child reaches the age of 12 or 13 years, so what we see that the body of the child, whether it be a male or a female child, it starts to go under certain physical and behavioral changes. huh? Like the height increases, the muscle mass increases, the voice changes, growth of hair on the faces, in the armpits, and in the pubic region. They would be feeling very moody, or sometimes very happy, sometimes very angry, like that. Mood would be swinging. The voice would be changing. The Adam's apples starts to appear. So all those are the changes because of this hormone called as testosterone. Particularly in the case of male, the hormone responsible for bringing about the different changes would be the testosterone hormone. Getting it now? So that is also secreted by the testis, and in fact, we'll be learning about this later on. Then talking about urethra, we have learned about what is its function. Talking about the vast difference, also we learned what its function is. Okay, now, and the prostate gland and seminal vesicles. Ibrahim, read these two paragraphs.
Prostate gland. It a gland located under the urinary bladder. It secretes prostate fluid, which makes the 1/3 content of semen. This fluid contains some enzymes, zinc, and citric acid. Seminal vesicles. They have a pouch-like structure. They are located above the prostate gland and connect with the vas deferens. They also secrete a fluid that provides
Nourishment to the sperms. Okay. So the different organs that we have learned, different parts of the male reproductive organs which we have learned. Is this clear to everyone? Aisha, Naim, and you, Ibrahim?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What is the function of scrotum? Yes. What is the function of a scrotum?
It maintains the temperature for production of sperms.
And holds the testicles. Very good. Okay, do tell me, there's a gland. I'm going to show you guys this image over here so that you can take a reference. There's a tube that carries the sperm from the testicles to the urethra. What do we call that tube?
Vas deferens.
Vas deferens. Very good. Okay, and there's another tube-like structure that will be allowing the flow of semen.
From the
Seminal.
Oh. No. Listen to the question once again. The question is that there's a tube-like structure that allows the flow of semen outside the body.
Urethra.
And why? That is urethra. Apart from semen, there's another liquid that passes through the urethra. Can you guys tell me?
Prostate fluid.
No. The question is that apart from semen passes via the urethra now. Apart from semen, one more thing can pass via the urethra. That is urine now. That is urine. Okay. So this urethra will be part of the urinary system also. As it is part of the reproductive system, so this, as why urethra, urine also passes. So this is part of the urinary system also. Okay, now? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, do tell me that out of the prostate gland and the seminal vesicle, both of them secrete some fluid, but which one of them makes about 1/3 of the content of the fluid? 1/3 of the content of semen.
prostate fluid.
Prostate fluid. Very good. Very good. Okay, now talking about the male sex hormone, that is basically the testosterone. Okay. Moments ago, we learned that this is also this is produced by the testicles, right? So the testes or the testicles would be producing testosterone, and how much amount of this testosterone will be produced? It will be controlled by the master gland found in your brain, that is called as pituitary gland. So there's a gland in your brain, okay, now that is called as pituitary gland. Have you guys heard of this gland before? Ever read about this? No? Yes, Aisha, Ibrahim, or Naeem? See,
Yes, sir.
good. By the way, you guys know what are glands now? They are special tissues that would be producing hormones. There are different kind of glands present in our body, and they would be producing different kind of enzymes or hormones. That is their functions. Like liver is a gland. In fact, it's the biggest gland, right? Pancreas, they are also gland, right? No, getting it. Pancreas are gland, livers are gland. You have pituitary gland. You have adrenal gland. There are different kind of glands, and they are different from the organs, by the way. Okay, no? You guys have learned about this now. In 7th standard, you would have learned about this. The primary function of glands are to secrete special chemical fluids. You'd be producing certain chemical fluids. Okay, na? And all the they would be playing different roles. For example, there are some glands that would be secreting sweat, or they would be having tears. There's a tear gland. Tear glands are there. Their function is to secrete tear. Sweat glands are found under our skin. Their function is to secrete sweat. Milk gland is found. Mammary glands in the females, their function is to produce milk. Right now, there are certain glands in our body that would be producing digestive juices, digestive enzymes. So hope you guys are getting the idea about this, like what their functions are. So your body have different kind of glands, and their function would be to secrete a number of things. Okay, no, either it could be digestive juices, it could be milk, it could be saliva, it could be tears, it could be sweat, etc. Okay, no, and you know the reason why we are talking about pituitary gland is no, because the amount of the testosterone that will be produced in the body will depend upon, it will be controlled by this pituitary gland. Where is it located? Inside the brain. Okay, and this is also called as the master gland. So far, is it clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
The testis, it will be producing the testosterone. This is the male hormone. The amount of its secretion, like how much it will be produced. So thereby, the pituitary gland controls its secretion. Controls its secretion. Okay. Furthermore, talking about what is the its role or what is the function performed by the testosterone. So it has a long list of functions is being performed by this. Mainly, this hormone is responsible for the development of the male sex organs right now. So, like the development of the prostate gland or seminal vesicles, or the sperm duct or the testis. So, for their development, this is important. Getting it now? For the development of the different structures like I mean to say like a vas deferens or prostate gland or seminal vesicle. For their development, testosterone is important. All of you getting it so far?
Yes, sir.
Hmm. So there, I mean to say, its primary role is to develop the male reproductive parts. That is the main role. That is the primary role. While talking about its secondary role, okay, now its secondary role would be to develop the develop would be development of secondary characters in the male child, in the male body, like the deepening of the voice, growth of facial hairs, growth of body hairs, growth of hair in the pubic region, increase of the height, increase of muscle mass. So whatever change is observed at the puberty, so all those change would be brought upon by this testosterone. Particularly a male child in which lots of testosterone hormone will be produced. So they will develop beards or mustaches or hairs on the chest or in the armpits will start to come as early as 11 years or 12 years of age. Getting it, everyone? So its secondary role is to its secondary role would be to develop secondary sexual characteristics like growth of height, deepening of the voice, hair growth, etc. Okay, no? That is one thing. Okay, I have one question for you guys. To tell me, is testosterone also produced in the female body? Like, generally think about this. Like, even if you haven't studied about this, like, generally think about this logically. That this is a male hormone. Is it produced in the females also? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Good. It is produced, and it is produced in a very small amount, but you know what? It is converted into another hormone. Okay, no? it is converted into other hormone. Getting it? What I'm trying to say. So like the ovaries in their body, they would be producing it, but will be producing just a small quantity of it, and mm, it would be converted into other hormones. Okay, now that is one thing. Also, you know that testosterone hormone has got other functions to perform. Also, it helps in other functions also. Like it signals your brain to manufacture new red blood cells. Apart from bringing about changes in the shape, size, or the growth of hairs in the body, huh? It also has got other functions to perform. So talking about other functions is like it signals the brain to produce new red blood cells like that. So hope you guys are getting this. Okay.